The topic is Euclidean domain or ED. Starting with the definition of Euclidean domain. Suppose we have an integral domain D, then it is said to be an Euclidean domain or an ED if it satisfies few conditions. Conditions are if there exists some function v such that v is a function from d minus 0 to z hash. Now what is z hash? Z hash means all non-negative integers. All non-negative integers. That means 0 and the positive integers. So if there exists a function v from d minus 0 to z hash such that the function v is said to be the following conditions. Number 1, v of ab is greater or equal to va for all a comma b, obviously not equal to 0, belongs to D. That means for all non-zero element a comma b belongs to D, v of ab greater or equal to va. And number 2 is for all a comma b belongs to D with b not equal to 0, there exists q comma r such that a equals bq plus r. And valuation of r, that is vr, is less than vb or r equals 0. If these two conditions satisfied, then this integral domain D is said to be an ED, and this function v is said to be the valuation function. So we got one integral domain D. It is said to be an ED if there exists a mapping v from d minus 0 to z hash such that it is satisfying two conditions. Number 1, v of ab greater or equal to va for all a comma b not equal to 0 belongs to D, and for all ab with b non-zero belongs to D, there exist q and r, obviously they should belongs to D, such that a equals bq plus r, where the valuation of r should be less than v of b, that is the valuation of b, or r equals 0. Either there is no r, and if such r exists, then its valuation should be less than the valuation of b. If these two conditions satisfied, then the integral domain is said to be an Euclidean domain. Now we need to get some examples. Before that, we can easily realize from the definitions of Euclidean domain. That means to prove some domain as Euclidean domain, what we have to prove? At first we have to find out the function v, that means the valuation function. At first we need to find out this function. Then we have to check the function is satisfying these two previously said conditions or not. Okay, so and clearly the function is not unique because we can find obviously more than one function which will satisfy these two conditions. So the function is not unique. One can find out in many ways. The function can be found out in many ways. So let's get check some examples. Number 1, the very common example, which is z. Let's start with that, the integral domain z. Now we are considering the function v from z slash 0, d slash 0, that means z slash 0 to z hash, such that v of a equals mod a for all a belongs to z minus 0. Now let's check this function v is satisfying the two conditions for being an Euclidean domain or not. Number 1, vab should be greater or equal to va. So starting with vab equals mod ab equals mod a into mod b. Obviously this is greater or equal to mod a because mod means the positive values, and we can say this is also equality holds, this one mod a into mod b. So from here what we can say, v of ab equals, we can write this one as va and we can write this one as vb. So we can say va greater equals vb. That means that is either greater than or equal to. So va equals to va into vb. Now let us prove the second condition. Second condition is, now by applying division algorithm over z, by applying division algorithm over Z, what we can write? Whenever we will take a comma b belongs to Z with b not equal to 0, obviously there exists q and r belongs to Z such that a equals bq plus r, right? This is true by the division algorithm property of integers. And where, what about r? Either r equals 0 or 0 less than r less than mod b. This was the property of this division algorithm. So from there we can say this. Now what we have to prove? We have to prove VR is less than VB. Then our example will be done. Now we get this one from division algorithm. So we can write 0 less than R less than mod B. That means mod R is also less than mod B, because R is positive. So mod R and R are same. So mod R less than mod B. That means mod R means V of R and mod B means V of B. So VR less than VB. That means the second condition is also satisfied by this V. So under this V, this one is an Euclidean domain. Okay. Similarly, here we have take VA equals mod A. Similarly, you can also define in many other ways. For example, if we take mod A whole to the power n for some positive integer n. Next example, if we choose V from Z minus 0 to Z hash, then if we choose like V of A equals mod A whole to the power n, where n is a fixed positive integer, then this will also this will also be satisfied the two conditions. Then under this evaluation or under this valuation V, Z also forms an ED. That means the valuation function is not unique. We can define it in many other ways. Now this will be your homework to prove that this will satisfy the two conditions for being an Euclidean domain. Okay, just prove like the previous way. Next example we can take next one. We are considering a field. Let F be a field. Then we have to prove it is also an Euclidean domain. That means that almost the theory, that is every field is an Euclidean domain. So we need to prove that. For that reason we are considering mapping V from F/0 to Z hash such that V of A equals 1. That means a constant mapping. We are considering the constant mapping as the valuation function. Now let's check this function is satisfying the two previous conditions or not. So starting with V of AB, obviously this will be equal to 1, and VA is also equal to 1. That means, and VB, if you take any other element B, then VB is also 1. So from here we can write VA equals VA into VB. VAB equals VA into VB. That is the first condition is satisfied. Next, moving to the next condition. Now let us consider A comma B belongs to F with B not equal to 0. Now B not equal to 0 and F is a field. That means every non-zero element is a unit. So B inverse exists as we are considering a field. Now we are writing A as B inverse A. We can write this. Now interchanging the bracket. That is writing B inverse A. Now taking this one as Q. So BQ plus some 0 we are considering this is as R. So from here we can write Q equals B inverse A and R equals 0. Right? Now check, this is the form A equal to BQ plus R. So we get the second condition. Just what we need to prove one more thing, that is VR must be less than VB. Now what is VR? R is equal to 0. That means r is equal to 0. So Vr should be equal to 1, which is always equal to Vb. That means we can write A equals BQ plus R in this form. So by this valuation function Va equal to 1, the field F forms an Euclidean domain. That means from here we can conclude one theorem, that is every field is a Euclidean domain. Now, okay, one thing, I told that Vr equal to 1. No, this is not true, because we cannot define V of 0, because we have already chosen this mapping V from F minus 0, right? So we cannot say that Vr should be equal to 1. That wasn't true. Next example, we are considering Fx, the polynomial ring. Next example, let F be a field and the polynomial ring Fx. We are considering this one. That means the polynomials over the field F. We have to prove this is also a Euclidean domain. Okay. That means there also we can state this example like a theorem also. Like when F is a field, the polynomial ring, corresponding polynomial ring Fx is an Euclidean domain. This is also a theorem. So let's prove it. We are considering a valuation V from Fx/0 to z hash, and considering the function as V of the elements of Fx minus 0 will look like some polynomial Fx. So V of Fx equals the degree of Fx. It's a polynomial, it must have some degree, and degree is always greater or equal to 0. Degree cannot be negative. So obviously this quantity belongs to z hash, non-negative integers. So we are defining the valuation function like this. Now we have to prove the two conditions. So for that reason, let us choose Fx, Gx belongs to Fx, and with Gx not equal to 0. Okay. Then we also can apply division algorithm over polynomials. We have already learned it in classical algebra. So by applying division algorithm over polynomials, what will we get? We will get there exists Qx, Rx belongs to Fx, such that we can write this one as Fx equals Qx into Gx plus Rx, just by the division algorithm of polynomials, where what is Rx? Rx is either 0 or degree of Rx is less than degree of Gx, right? Now what does it mean by degree of Rx? It means V of Rx. We have defined V like this. So V of Rx should be less than V of Gx. Okay, that is the second condition is proved. Now let's try to prove the first condition, that is V of AB greater or equal to V of A. So for that reason we are considering two polynomials Fx like this, A0 plus A1x plus dot dot an x to the power n. Obviously an not equal to 0, otherwise it won't be a polynomial of degree n. And considering Gx like b0 plus b1x plus dot dot bm x to the power m, where obviously bm is also not equal to 0. Then what about Fx Gx? It will be this one into this one. And what about the degree of Fx into Gx? It will be m plus n. We know the product of the two polynomials, its degree will be the sum of their degrees, so it will be m plus n. And what about the degree? That means from here we can write V of Fx Gx will be equal to m plus n. And what about V of Fx? V of Fx means degree of Fx. Degree of Fx is equals to n. Now m plus n is always greater or equal to n. equality holds when m equal to 0. So from there we can write v of fx gx is greater or equal to v of fx. This proves the first condition. That means fx, this polynomial ring, is a Euclidean domain. Okay. Next, moving to the next example, considering the integral domain Zi. Next example, considering the integral domain Zi. And we are considering the valuation function as the norm function. That means v of some a plus bi will be equal to norm of a plus bi. And we have already defined that one example of norm function can be alpha alpha bar, from which we get this is equals a square plus b square. Okay, so the v is a function of zi slash 0 to z hashtag such that v of a plus bi will be equal to a square plus b square. Now we have to prove under this valuation zi forms a Euclidean domain. For that reason, let us consider two elements a plus bi, comma c plus di. Then v of a plus bi will be a square plus b square, and v of c plus di will be equal c square plus d square. Now what about a plus bi into c plus di, v of their product? It will be n of this a plus bi into c plus di, right? And we already know that norm function is a multiplicative function. That means we can write it as n of a plus bi into n of c plus di. That means a square plus b square into c square plus d square. Now this quantity obviously greater or equal to a square plus b square, right? Because this is a positive quantity. Whenever we are multiplying by some positive integers, obviously integers, then this will be greater or equal to this quantity, and which is equal to v of a plus bi. So from there we can write v of their product is greater or equal to v of the single element, that is valuation of the single element. So the first condition for being an Euclidean domain is satisfied. Now moving to prove the second condition. For that reason we are considering two elements similarly a plus bi and c plus di belongs to zi, with c plus di not equal to 0. That means whenever c plus di is not equal to 0, that means c not equal to 0 and d not equal to 0. That means both of them cannot become simultaneously 0. And we are considering a plus bi by c plus di. Trying to get it in the form of elements of zi, that means some integer plus I into another integer. So this will be look like, just rationalizing it. C plus bd plus bc minus ad divided by c square plus d square. So we can write it like this: ac plus bd by c square plus d square plus, there is one I, bc minus ad into I by c square plus d square, taking it this quantity as some small p and taking this quantity as some small q, then it will become p plus iq. Okay, so a plus ib by c plus di is of the form p plus iq, and this is obviously belongs to zi. Sorry, this is not always belongs to zi, because we don't know what about p and what about q. They may be integer, may not be integer, so we need to check that. And where p is ac plus bd by c square plus d square and q is this one. Now suppose p and q, they are rational numbers, we can say that we don't know they are integers or not, but we can say they are both are rational numbers because they are the like remainder form of two integers, this one and this one. So from there we can say that there exist integers in the next line we can say there exist integers m comma n such that p minus m less or equal to half and q minus n less or equal to half. That means whenever we get two rational numbers p comma q, then we'll obviously find two integers m and n such that their differences, modulus value of their differences is less or equal to half and modulus value of their differences is less or equal to half. Suppose we get p equals some 1.4, okay, and suppose we get some q equals 2.2. This is 1.4. It means this 0, this 1, this is 2. That means this will look like here. Now if you take the integer as this one, 1, then minus 1.4. That means if you take m equals 1, then what will you get? 1.4 minus 1. That means 0.4. This is equal to 4 by 10, that is 2 by 5. That means obviously you will find one integer m such that it is satisfying this property p minus m less or equal to half. Similarly for p and q, both the rational numbers, you will get two integers always such that this is satisfying these two properties. Now we are taking p minus m equals alpha and q minus n equals beta. That means two rational numbers such that mod alpha less or equal to half and mod beta less or equal to half. Now we are starting with a plus bi equals c plus di into p plus qi, because this by this was p plus qi, so writing it like this. Now what about p? We can write this p as m plus alpha and this q as n plus beta, so it will become ni plus beta I. So in the next line we are writing c plus di into m plus ni plus alpha plus beta I. That is c plus di into m plus ni plus r, where this quantity belongs to zi because m and n are integers. And what about r? R means from their product the rest of the part. Apart from this, the rest of the part we are taking it as r. And what will be the rest of the part? R. This will become c plus di into alpha plus beta I. That means we can write it as c plus di into p plus qi minus m plus ni. This one, this quantity will also belongs to zi because we have taken this is from zi and this from zi, that is r belongs to zi. Now what condition can be happen? Now check this line, a plus bi can be written as the form some elements of zi into c plus di plus some r. Now our work is to prove either this r equals to 0 or valuation of r is less than the valuation of c plus di. That's it. So let's check. So either r equals 0 or what about the, if this doesn't happen, that is r is not equal to 0, then what about the valuation of r? Let's check it. The valuation. Valuation of r means valuation and the norm function both are same here. That means norm of c plus di into p minus m plus q minus ni. This quantity, that is norm of c plus di into norm of this whole quantity, because norm is a multiplicative function. So from there we can write c square plus d square into p minus m its whole square plus q minus n its whole square, that is c square plus d square. This quantity is less than, this quantity is less than half and this is also less than half. So from less or equal to half. So from there what we can write? We can write it as this is 1/4 half square plus half square 1/4, that is c square plus d square into half, which is obviously less than c square plus d square. And what about c square plus d square? This means valuation of c plus di. So we have started with valuation of r and we ended at this is less than v of c plus di. That is, valuation of r is less than valuation of c plus di. This proves the whole second condition for being an integral domain. That means we can use, for zi, we can use that norm function n, which was defined as alpha alpha bar. This function can be used as a valuation function over zi. Okay. This proves the result. Now we will prove two theorems. Number one is every Euclidean domain is a principal ideal domain. Every Euclidean domain is a principal ideal domain. Let's prove it. Let D is a Euclidean domain with the Euclidean valuation as V. So D comma V, this forms a Euclidean domain. And let us consider, we have to prove this is a PID. PID means principal ideal domain. That is, every ideal is principal ideal. That means every ideal can be generated by a single element. So let us consider U is an ideal of D. Now case 1 is U is the zero ideal. Okay, that means it is generated by 0. That is, obviously it is a principal ideal, so there is nothing left to prove. Now consider case 2. U is a non-zero ideal. That means there exists some non-zero element in U. Such that, suppose we are considering this non-zero element as x. X not equal to 0 belongs to U. Such that valuation of B is the valuation of x, we have considered x as the non-zero element, such that valuation of x is the least element of all Vy for non-zero y in U. That means whenever we get one non-zero element x, considering its valuation function. Now we get another non-zero element, we consider its value. That means suppose v of x1 like v of x2 and so on. Now these are few natural numbers, right? Because the codomain of the valuation function is z hash. That is all the non-negative integers. So these are all the natural numbers. Now by the well ordering principle of natural number, what we can say? Well ordering principle of natural numbers, we can say that whenever we will get a subset of natural numbers, it should always have a least element. So for that reason we are saying that this set of valuation functions, that is all that Vi for non-zero y in U, we should get one least element, and we are saying that Vx is the least element of all these elements. And this is true by the well ordering principle of the set of natural numbers. Now let some A belongs to U. Okay, that means there exists some Q comma R belongs to D, such that for that x we are considering A belongs to U and that x not equal to 0 already belongs to U. So by division algorithm we can say, or by the property of Euclidean domain, we can say there exists Q comma R belongs to D, such that A can be written as BQ plus R, where either R equal to 0 or VR less than Vx. Sorry, this is x. VR less than Vx, just by the second property of Euclidean domain. We can say this from there. Now since U is an ideal and A belongs to U, comma X belongs to U. So from there what we can write? A minus XQ also belongs to U. And what about A minus XQ? This means R, that is R belongs to U. That means VR is less than Vx. This is not possible because Vx is the least element of all such non-zero elements. This quantity is not possible, but we have checked this one. So this possibility, this is not possible. The possible thing is R equals to 0, because by the second condition of Euclidean domain we have said that either R equal to 0 or this one. Now we can cross out this possibility, that means R equals to 0. So from there what we can say, if R equal to 0, we can say A equals XQ for some Q belongs to D, and we have chosen A arbitrarily from the element set of U. So from here what we can write, A is generated by the element of X, right? That means we have chosen any arbitrary element from U. So U can be generated by that element X. That means U can be generated by a singleton element of the domain. So U is a principal ideal. That means the particular domain which we are talking about, D, is a principal ideal domain. So from this theorem we can say that every Euclidean domain is a principal ideal domain. But the converse may not always true. So from here we can conclude one thing, that is conclude one relation between all that domains we have discussed about. So first we are considering Euclidean domain. Okay, we just proved that Euclidean domain means a principal ideal domain. And we have already proved in the last class that principal ideal domain is a UFD, that is unique factorization domain. So this is the relation between ED, PID and UFD. That is ED means it is PID and PID means it is UFD. But the converse is not true. Okay, that a UFD may not be a PID, we have already taken example for that, and a PID may not be a ED. Okay, now if you, that means from here what we can write, ED is a subset of PID. That means the set of all ED is a subset of PID. Similarly, PID is a subset of UFD, right?